I'm Kit Wertz with Flower Duet, and I'm really happy to teach you this design today for the Huntington Library, Art Museum, and Botanical Gardens. Did you know that there are many different types of love, and they are on display at the Huntington Library? There's the Temple of Love near the Rose Garden. There's Mary Cassatt's Breakfast in Bed with a mom and a baby, and a beautiful vintage Valentine's collection, and a lot of other wonderful pieces that represent love. So we're going to take inspiration from some of those wonderful pieces of art that you can find at the Huntington, as well as the beautiful Rose Garden and other gardens, the Australian Garden and the Herb Garden and the Shakespeare Garden. And we're going to put all that together in this beautiful vase of flowers just for you. I'm so glad you're joining me. We are going to do a fantastic design today that's inspired by Valentine's. And we have a beautiful red bowl, and inside the bowl I already have my water and my flower food. And you always want to make sure that you put about 3/4 full of water. Use your flower food that comes with your flowers. Make sure you look on the back and mix the right amount of water to flower food. So this says 1 quart for this much flower food. I know that this vase holds a little over 1 quart, so I might have to use 2 packets and 2 quarts. That means I'll have leftover water because I'm going to need to keep adding water to my design for the next 2 or 3 days because the flowers are going to drink a lot. So mix up your water and your flower food in a separate container in the right proportions. Pour it into your vase. Whatever's left over is what you're going to keep adding to your vase over the course of the few days to keep your flower arrangement alive. Let's talk other tools. We're going to use a rubber band and some floral cutters. So let's introduce you to the flowers. A flower design that has a lot of different flowers is called a composite bouquet, and that's what we're making. And we have lots of greenery, and then we have purple and pinks and reds. And that is because we're celebrating Valentine's Day, as you can see from my purple shirt and my pink top. So let's talk about, we're going to work with a pink rose, a deep burgundy carnation, because this means ever-loving passion. Passionate love is the deep burgundy carnation. A red rose, which of course means love. We're using a purple dianthus. Also a purple or lavender alstroemeria, matches my jacket. Some purple wax flower that smells divine. Now for our greenery, we're going to be working with a greenery called Nagi, or we might also, you could use Italian ruscus. So we're either going to be using Nagi or Italian ruscus. We're also going to use Israeli ruscus to fill in if we need to. Tree fern, which is the fluffy greenery that we'll be using in our design. Polka dot aspidistra. I'm going to use a few of these to finish it off. Some fun gray Dusty Miller, and some grayish green eucalyptus. So those are all of our players. So let's put it together. We're working with a 5x5 container. It's kind of a cylinder, it's kind of a bowl cylinder. You could use a 5x5 cube. You could use a 5x5 clear cylinder, because by the time we're done, all the stems are going to hide our little rubber band. So really, 5x5. If you have anything lower than a 5-inch tall vase, it's hard to keep the flowers in. And we're going to use this little rubber band to kind of give us a little help with making sure that the flowers stay in the vase. So if I were just to put this in here and start putting flowers in, there's not a whole lot that's going to keep it to stay down in the vase. Plus, of course, you always have to cut before you put it in the water. Cut in place within 10 seconds because stems seal up pretty fast. So what I'm going to do is I have my Nagi, and I've cleaned the bottom portion. What that means is you take off any leaves that are going to be below the water line of the vase. So you can see where my hand is, there's no leaves on the stem. So you want to make it nice and clean. So that's been done for my Nagi, and then I have some eucalyptus. So anything I know that's going to be low in the vase, I'm going to take off any of these leaves that are going to be low in the vase, because don't want any greenery on the stems below that water line in the vase, because what happens is they'll break down, then they start to turn the water green, and that green actually clogs up the stems, and then they can't drink. And if the flowers can't drink the water and the flower food that you're giving them, then they're not going to last very long in the vase. You want them to live as long as they can in the vase because they're still alive. So cut and place within 10 seconds. That makes sure that they can still drink the water, and make sure there's no greenery in the water line, because then you'll keep that water nice and clean. The other thing we're going to start with before we put in our rubber band is some of this wax flower. And the reason why it's a filler flower, and usually you would add it at the end, but because the stems are so woody and very sturdy, it's a great beginner for what my purpose today is, which is creating stem architecture inside the vase that we'll be able to put our other stems around, and they should all stay down. So the little green guys that are on the wax flower aren't as important to get off because they don't break down as much. However, I like to take them off because it's cleaner. So if you need to remove your stem because you don't like where you put it, those little green leaves that are on the stem aren't going to get caught and then pull out all your other flowers that are in your design. So I don't need to do too many, but the thing I love about the wax flower is as you clean it, it releases kind of like this lemon smell, and so you get a little bit of aromatherapy, which is really great. So flower arranging is great for the eyes, the touch, and your sense of smell. So we're going to take our nagi, and our purpose of our nagi, or we'll be using Italian ruscus, is we want to give a little bit of width to our design. So I'm going to lay a nagi. It sounds like a type of sushi, and a wax flower, and then I'm going to put a eucalyptus. Then I'm going to do another wax flower. I'm just going to line up my stems here on the bottom. Another eucalyptus. So I'm just doing a gathering. Another nagi. You'll see where I'm going with this. Another wax flower. That one's a little short. Let's keep my long wax flowers. There we go. Another eucalyptus. So I have about another nagi. I have 3 nagis, 3 wax, and maybe 4 eucalyptus. And I've created like a little bundle in one hand, and I'm going to take my bunch cutters. I'm just going to kind of trim them so they're almost even. I don't need to be that particularly even with them. I'm going to take my rubber band, and I'm going to wrap it around maybe 3 or 4 times. It doesn't have to be a really tight wrap. I'm not trying to make it super tight like a ponytail. I'm just trying to make it so that it won't slip down the stems. So now that I have my stems secure with a rubber band, I can twist them like this and get them into my length that I want. So let's me do that again. So here they're together. They're in my rubber band. And now I'm just going to take half of the bunch and in one hand and half in the other hand, and I'm going to splay it out. So now I'm going to just kind of place it in my vase before I give it a trim and see where I'm doing. So I'm going to push it into my vase and see, okay, I need to trim a little bit because I want these stems to splay out, and right now they're a little too tall. So I'm going to trim about 1 inch off, splay them again, and place them into my vase. Now they're sitting the way I want them to sit. And I can continue to take those stems and kind of split them into a little bit more groups in there, and make sure they're sitting down in the bottom of the vase. So all I've done is I've created an architecture underwater, and I'll take a picture of that to show you, so that when I start to add another stem, like for example, this wax flower, and I push it in, it's just gonna stay. Like, it's not gonna flip out because I've pushed it in underneath the initial set. And even this wax flower that's very stiff stem, I could actually go in right into the middle of of the rubber band and those other stems, and see, it's actually kind of staying up straight. And then if I have one of these eucalyptus, I can look and see and find a way to sort of weave it into the stems underneath. And as I weave it in, it just stays. And all I used was one rubber band. I didn't use floral foam. I didn't use chicken wire. I didn't use any sort of grid method. Just a rubber band with about 12 stems to start that are stiff and thin, not super thick stems, but thin stems. And I already have sort of my outline of my design. So let me pause and take a picture to show you the top, and you can do this too. And then we'll start to add some of our other flowers. Now that you finished that step, let's add a few more of the greenery. So let's get our tree fern. And what we're going to do with the tree fern is we're going to, since it's a light and delicate greenery, we're going to add it around and fill in a lot of the negative space that's already exists. So we're going to go all around. We're going to keep some of it out to the side, because wherever you add it, in, out, up, down, you got to make sure you add it throughout your design. So out far, so keep some stems long, come out far to the side, and then you want some in the front, some in the back, and some on this side. And then we have our Dusty Miller. You'll trim what you need to trim from it. Trim some of this off. This is just not supposed to be a superstar. This is just supposed to add a highlight. So we're using a lot of dark flowers, and it's nice to throw something in there that's going to help show off those dark flowers. If you just had all dark flowers in a design, sometimes they would get lost. And so by using the things like the Dusty Miller, which is more of a bright silver, kind of goes nicely with the eucalyptus. So I just kind of put it in, I have three, so I put it in a triangle. So when I take a picture from the top, you'll see that you could draw a triangle between them. Depending on how big they are, you'll decide, okay, where your placement's going to be. But I would just try to do, one, maybe, one quadrant here, one quadrant here, one quadrant here. It's not a quadrant because there's three, but you want to make sure you have them on all sides of your design. Try that and come on back. We have a nice base here, so let's add some of our focal flowers. So we have two that we're going to start with. We have three total. We have red roses, pink roses, and burgundy carnations. And the burgundy carnations I love because they mean passion, which is great for Valentine's. So carnations, when they're super fresh, they will look like this, which is very closed. And so how you open them up is you take your finger and you start petting them from the outside of the bloom. And then as you get the outside petals to kind of pop open, then you can brush the inside petals to make it a little fuller. You have to wait until they've started to crack a little. If they're super tight, you're gonna force them and break them. You wanna wait till they're a little open. So if you're hurrying, you want them to open faster, cut them, put them in a little warm water, and then they'll start to open a little faster. So these are a little older, so they're a little more open, so you can kind of see they're a little fluffier, but same variety. And they have these leaves on the stems. Where the leaves are their joints, which are very delicate. So just like the flower itself lasts a long time, but these joints where the flower meets on the stem can be very, they break easily. So you want to be really gentle when you're cleaning your carnations, that you don't break those joints. So we're gonna keep, kind of remember how I said with the tree fern, we went out far on some, we kept some short in the front. So wherever you place them, you want to make sure that your eye moves throughout the design. So we have one here, one here, one here, and they're not at the same height. I want to bring the eye out here on the left, my left, your right. And if I'm going far out or tall, I want to keep the stem, the head a little smaller head. So this is it's not as fluffy, not as wide open. It looks kind of fun going off to the side, having a different size head. So then I'm gonna mimic that look on the back. I have a total of 8 that I'm placing in this design, cutting and placing as I go. One right in the middle, bring the eye down. I think I'm missing one off here on this side coming out towards the viewer. All around design, you want to make sure that everyone's going to see the flowers all the way around. Okay, so now let's add a pop of pink. You could pause now. Okay, so I'm assuming you put your burgundy carnations in, and now let's add these beautiful pink roses. And we're gonna, again, we wanna make it, I only have 4, so we wanna make it so that we can see them on, you can see 3 at least, whether you're looking at this side or that side. So we're gonna pretend we have 3 on each side when we're really only gonna have 4 total. So how do we do that? Well, we make sure that these are seen from both sides. And then there's one kind of in the middle or slightly off to the side, like that. So that way we can see the light pink popping throughout. And I want to make sure that I'm not quite the same height there, so that looks nice. Okay, so we have a big hole here in the middle. We need to start filling in with some other greenery and other flowers. So why don't you add your light pink roses and then come on back. I'm going to add our Gypsy Dianthus, which is this amazing, amazing flower, because you get one stem and you get so many fun blooms on the end. And sometimes they are starting to bloom or just have a lot of greenery, so you have a lot of fun texture. So this one I'm going to keep fairly short, and I'm going to go right down into the middle of my design because I really need to fill in some space in there. So I'm going to really tuck it down. And so now I have purple right in the middle. But what I'm missing is some purple on the sides and purple in the front and back. So that's where I'm going to take one of these other ones. And this one has what I could call it a hitchhiker. So I could take that off and save that, put that low in the front. And then keep this one long to bring some purple out to the side. You see, I'm lifting up from underneath where I put the carnation, and I'm gonna tuck it in underneath, see if I can make sure the flower arrangement doesn't move too much. So sometimes if you see you need a color, it's okay to kind of lift the arrangement up and then tuck a stem underneath. You don't have to always add from the top. You can add from underneath as well. Let's see if we can get another. This one's nice and skinny. So let's add this one out. And I also like the way it has a natural bend. We try, remember, these stems are delicate where they have those joints. So you want to be careful when you're placing them in that you don't break the stem. So now I have purple off to the sides. So I'm missing some purple here and some purple here. that's where I can go back to those shorter stems that I cut off, the hitchhikers. So I have one here, so I'm going to place that in the front here. Let's see, and then I'll turn it around to show you. Right there, I've got it. And let me find here. And you got to make sure if your stems are short that you're getting into the water. So you got to make sure, remember, always cut place, remove any greenery that's going to be below that water line, especially if the stems are short. And really try to make sure you get it into the water the best you can, because it needs to be in the water to drink. So I think that we're done with our gypsy dianthus. So why don't you try to add that in, and you want to make sure your purple is all around, low, medium, and out there. So we're going to add some red roses that are pretty much what everybody thinks about when they think of Valentine's Day, but we're also going to add some lavender alstroemeria, which is lily of the Nile. So lilies and roses. So let's just take a look at where we need to add accent. So this red rose is a little bit of a brighter red than the burgundy carnation, and so it's going to add a nice pop. And so I'm going to look for a spot. Maybe I've got 6 of these, so I'm going to look for a place to kind of add a little bit of color. If there's just nothing, just a lot of greenery, looking for holes in my design, basically, to add that pop of a nice focal flower. So maybe not where the pink rose is. I need to have a red rose, so it's not competing, but it's going to add to it. So this is where you can have, again, some out to the side, maybe tuck under. Maybe you'll have to tuck it under. I'm going to tuck this one under this pink rose if I can find a spot. Yeah, I like that. If anything gets moved, then I can move it around. Just take it a look. So I've got red rose there, pink, red, red, pink, pink. So I'm missing a red rose here and one in the middle of my design. So it's always good to have something right in the middle, because people come up and they look. Want to make sure that middle is covered with flowers. I got one right in the middle there. Just looking around again where I'm missing something off here. So let's put a rose there. Just a little safety thing, make sure that you always hold the stem far away from where you're cutting, so you don't cut your finger by accident. Always know where your cutters are, so you're not accidentally cutting a fingertip instead of a stem. There. Yeah, that looks nice, tucked into there. Okay, so we've added our red roses, and then we're going to finish off with our alstroemeria, and then 2 more greenery if we need it. Come on back. All right, so we have added our roses before our alstroemeria, because alstroemeria, or the Peruvian lily, has pretty delicate flowers. So you want to add them almost last, because if you are adding other flowers in over them, you might end up breaking the flowers. So this is just, again, it's a lighter purple. So what it's going to do is it's going to pull, like the Dusty Miller and the light greenery does, it's going to add a little highlight into the design. And we can also throw in a couple wax flower there in the middle too that will help with that. But you want to have it so that there's a highlight. A highlight color means high, so high means bright. So I've got one there, and I need one here in the front on the left to add a little bit more pop. And again, like if you're having, a flowers in the evening on a dining table and it's candlelight it's good to have some brighter flowers mixed in with the darks. It doesn't have to be that many, and then that helps draw your eye to the darker flowers. So just three of those, and now we're ready to kind of finish it with just a few finishing touches. So it's looking pretty good. I just took another couple photos for you to see how we progressed. And what we're missing now is a little bit of wax flower here in the middle. We don't have that highlight of wax flower. Maybe a little bit of tree fern right in the middle. So if you have, one or two of those left, you can just carefully pop them in the middle and have them poke up through your design, because you don't want to, remember, you want to be careful of those lilies, the Peruvian lilies. Okay, so then we want to take a little bit of the wax. Again, remember, you're going to clean those stems, and just a little bit will add a nice pop, and I'm going to stick that right in the middle of the design because I want to see the wax flower there. I have it on the sides, but I don't have it right in the middle, and I'm also kind of missing it I see right here in the front of my design, so I'm tucking it underneath flowers. Remember, I said you don't always have to be adding from the middle. Sometimes you can add from underneath the other flowers that you've added in. So I'm going to turn this around so I can show you where I tucked it in right there. And the other thing that's great about wax flower, it's filler flower, so if you've got a big hole where there's nothing, then you have a big bundle of it, and if you need more than one bundle, you put two together. So I'm trying to find where I'm missing a little bit of highlight color of that lavender, because that's what this wax flower is. It's more on the lavender side, and it helps pull, it helps that highlight that we need in this design. I'm going to go underneath these red roses here to add a little bit more wax. Missing one up here that's tall. So let's see if I can have one more piece that's nice and tall. This is nice. So I just need one here. And just gently, when you're putting it in, just be gentle about putting it in. Don't force it. Okay, so now I have got all my color. So the only thing left is to look and see, do I have a lot of stems showing? Is it stemmy? So that's where you can take some ruscus if you need it, and you're going to take most of the bottom off, and you're just going to keep this part, a few tips of the top, and then you're going to look and see, is there a place where I can see stems? And then you're going to place that in there, and then the leaves are just going to cover up where the stems are showing, and they're not going to come up above the rest of the design. It's really just to fill in where you might have some stemmy action going. And you can do it underneath, like I was talking about, lift up your flowers and go underneath if you want. They're also strong, so they add a little extra support if you need that. Because they're pretty close to the nagi, you don't have to worry if you only use like 3 or 4 of them. It's not like you're adding something that's really noticeable, like, oh, you've only added 1 of those. So, 3 or 4 are fine. So you might not need that many. Okay, so then the last thing we could add if we want to is this aspidistra. It's polka dot. It's really fun. And what that will do is just will really help us elongate our design. So we can have one on one side, one coming through the other side, and again tucking under. It just adds some nice width to our design. And then if you're going to do that, you need one to come through the top. So we have one here, so we're going to pick an area. Be careful of the alstroemeria. Don't poke the alstroemeria. Try to get that down into the water. And because it's polka dot aspidistra, it looks great on the front and the back. So it doesn't matter which side you're looking from, it looks good. And I think we're done. So I'm gonna clean off the table and then we'll talk about it. Happy Valentine's Day from Flower Duet. I hope you enjoyed this class. I sure did enjoy teaching you and can't wait to see what you make.